Good morning, my fellow Sith Lords. How's it going, everybody? It's 11:30 in the morning, and this is early for me. So, today we're going to talk about why Anakin Vader's eyes kept changing back and forth. I see this in a lot of the comments, and during the live stream, a lot of people were like, "Did you guys see that? Why did his eyes change?" Okay, this is actually interesting, because this is something that I put into my fan film.
Lord Vader?
As he wishes.
A lot of people sort of were wondering like why his eyes changed too, so this is a great opportunity to talk about it. In the show, when Vader and Kenobi were fighting, and we got his helmet slashed open, and if you notice, it was actually the left side, and Ahsoka had slashed the right side. And I mentioned this in the breakdown, but Luke was the only one that could take the actual whole mask off, so it's kind of poetic, like that's kind of nice. But we see, as he's talking to Obi-Wan, his eyes are normal blue, and then they're Sith yellow, and then they're normal blue, and then they're Sith yellow. We also see the reflection of the red on his face, and the blue on his face of Obi-Wan's lightsaber and Vader's lightsaber. This is to portray, I believe it's just a directing thing, to portray Anakin's struggle and his sort of limbo in the Force itself, that he's, mostly on the dark side now, but he's still struggling and conflicted with the light side. And this is exactly, I believe it was doubled down and confirmed by Palpatine at the end of the show, where he said, "Your love for your old master perhaps makes you weak," something like that, to that effect. And I believe this is very true. I believe, once again, Anakin lost to Obi-Wan, not because he couldn't beat him, but because he just was conflicted. He couldn't pick one side of the Force to really sit on. He was sort of going back and forth, not all in it 100% all the time. And I think this is what caused him to lose once again. Now, in Revenge of the Sith, I also think that he wasn't fully giving himself into the dark side, as when he was fighting, his eyes were blue. And when he's fully tapped into the dark side, full of hatred and rage and anger, his eyes are Sith yellow. So he has this soft spot for Obi-Wan, and it's kind of beautiful in a sense, but also it's kind of sad for him, because he just always loses. He never wins, and he sort of blames it on himself, probably. Now, there were certain moments in the show, in the episode, in the fight, where Vader's eyes were blue, and it was more so Anakin's voice where he was talking to Obi-Wan. Now, a lot of people are speculating online that, oh, this was Anakin, and then his BPD kicked in, and it was Vader then, once it was, Sith yellow and the red was on his face. I don't necessarily think it's like a split like that, like, traditionally, how it psychologically would be, but I think it's more so like he is just torn between two different decisions. And I think he has to come to terms with what he really wants in his life. And I think, at the end of the day, a lot of people say Vader's a bad guy. He's done bad things, but I don't think he's a bad person at his core. He's still Anakin Skywalker, and he was a very nice person. I think he just really wanted to make his wife survive and learn the powers to keep her alive, and love makes you do crazy things, which is not justifying the things he did, but at the end of the day, he did his things because he was selfish, because he was power hungry, and because he wanted his wife to stay alive. So his motive wasn't like necessarily Sidious's, who is just evil and pure evil to the core. His motive was something a little bit different, albeit the result will be the same in the end. You're doing horrific things. But I believe it's for this reason that Vader isn't ever fully able to beat Obi-Wan or really attain his true power, because he's always conflicted. And we saw that with the light. We saw that as he was talking to Obi-Wan, he's like, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker." And then it switches, "I did." So I don't think in that moment necessarily that he was splitting. I think he knew what he wanted to say. I think that's why he started the sentence that way, as Vader. And I believe Vader and Anakin at this point are kind of just disillusioned and thinking that this is the only path. Until, of course, Luke comes in and he says, "It is too late for me, my son." Right? Like at that point, he's still Anakin as well, but he's just turned and tormented Anakin, right? It's like when Padme saw him on Mustafar, he was still Vader, he was still Anakin, but he was just had chosen a different path. He was corrupted and tormented by the dark side and by his decisions and his selfishness and all that. So I think there's no split, but I believe he is just so conflicted. So yeah, I think in that moment, you know, his eyes were blue because he was sort of remembering Obi-Wan and remembering Anakin, and in the moment, it wasn't allowing him to draw upon that power, draw upon that hatred, because those memories of Obi-Wan, in an instance, you know, in that moment, were nice memories. You know, he has a whole life with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and once he then starts to think about it a little more and be like, no, but look where I am now. You know, what did Obi-Wan do? He was responsible for Padme's death and blah, blah, blah. Whatever else he wants to blame Obi-Wan for. He was holding me back. Then his eyes will switch to red, to yellow. And then the Sith starts to feed on that anger and the hatred that he creates in his own mind for Obi-Wan. So I think for Anakin, it just takes a little longer for certain things to really kick in with the dark side. I think with things that are like very organic, like, you know, the Tusken Raiders with his mom, I think that's like immediate. You know, there is no pleasant memory with the Tuskens. But I think with Obi-Wan, that weakness, it will always be there because he always holds that soft spot for him. He may want to kill him, but I think he also at the same time misses him. And he probably just wants a hug at the end of the day. You know, after all of this, after having done everything he's done and seeing that, well, you know, nothing's really bringing her back. So I really loved how they added the blue eyes and the Sith eyes to show that conflict, whereas Sidious always got the Sith eyes going on, always evil, always tapped into the dark side, and always ready to go and fight. Now, why didn't he have it as Palpatine? Well, of course he couldn't. It's not like you can run around with Sith eyes being like, I'm not a Force user, I'm not the Sith Lord you're looking for. But with Anakin and Vader, who was, you know, originally in the light side of the Force, I think it's much more difficult for him to fully commit unless he's doing really atrocious things. And even like after the youngling scene, he still didn't have those eyes. You know, when he flew to Mustafar and after he took out the Separatists, that's when his eyes properly changed. But then of course Padme ruined it because she arrived and he was like, oh, Padme, oh, there's no dark side to pull from here. And then Obi-Wan, oh, there's no dark side to pull from, but I still hate him, I'm mad at him, I gotta do what I must, you know, to execute Order 66 and save Padme's life. He had gone crazy, he was power hungry, we all know this, but at the end of the day, I don't think he was fully committed to the dark side like Sidious had wanted, and this is why he was always testing him. This is why in the comics he was always sending assassins after Vader to prove himself and to make sure that he was committed to the dark side. And when Vader said, no, I serve only you, Master, Kenobi is nothing, it's something like Kenobi means nothing to me, you know, Sidious was like grinning. But that's not the end of his trials. He's gonna keep freaking testing him and being like, yo, why are you so conflicted? Why are you so weak for Obi-Wan? And the reason is, well, because Obi-Wan is like his best friend, you know? So it's gonna be difficult for him to properly give in all the time. And I think this goes hand in hand with his return as Anakin in Return of the Jedi. And I also think that it is the reason why he just can never beat Obi-Wan, really. And A New Hope doesn't count because Obi-Wan full-on just gave himself to the Force. And I guess that was all, you know, from the teachings that Qui-Gon gave him, which I'm very excited to hear about, learn about, see, and dive into hopefully in Kenobi Season 2. That'd be nice. Let me know what you guys think about this scene of Anakin Vader's eyes turning blue and red, blue and yellow, flickering between the two, the light side and the dark side, and his conflict within. Do you think he's fully tapped in all the time, or do you think he's definitely, you know, conflicted and kind of sitting on the fence here or there? So, let me know what you guys think. I love reading your comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.